Thanks for your patience over the last couple of months whilst I've been away. Yeah, it was unforeseen. But yeah, I'm back now, so hopefully I can get going, get some momentum back and things like that. So yeah, in today's video, I want to be talking about Gabor Mate's book called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, which is a book on addiction, and he goes into his work as a psychiatrist who helped a lot of drug addicts. Not even just drug addicts, though. He talks about addictions in general. So, briefly speaking, there are two types of addictions. There's substance addictions, which are addictions which involve substances. So, recreational drugs, alcohol, things like that. And then there's process addictions, which are basically addictive behaviors such as gambling, and things like that. So, in his book, actually, he sort of conflates the two together somewhat. So he acknowledges that they're two different things. However, realistically, like, they have the same impact on the brain. He goes into a lot of the sciencey sort of side of things behind that as well. I'm not going to be touching on that in this video. I'm just going to be giving some of the basics. His book is really great though, and I definitely recommend you read it or listen to the audiobook, which is narrated by his son Daniel Maté, who does a great job at it. So yeah. Also, I want to preface this by saying I am in no way, shape, or form an expert on addiction. I'm just somebody who's been interested in the subject for quite some time. And you know, Dr. Mate has suffered with addictions, as he does mention in his book. So he just kind of speaks about his experience, and yeah, I'd encourage you to definitely check his stuff out, and do your own research into addiction as well. But yeah, without further ado, let's go. So, addiction has two main parts to it. So you have the addiction itself, so whatever that addiction may be, because like I said, whatever addiction you have, the effects are the same on your brain practically. So the addiction itself is one aspect, and the other aspect is the addict. So, the person partaking in that addiction. So if we look at the addiction itself, defining an addiction, it's just a repeated pattern of behavior as a means of escapism. And the reason why I say escapism, I'm going to come back to in a bit. But essentially, if you think about addiction as literally just a pattern of behavior, that's all it basically is. It's a repeated pattern of behavior, which a person feels compulsed to do. So that's basically all an addiction really is. And then the addict is the other component, the person who is affected, by this pattern of behavior. Realistically speaking, the bigger problem is actually the addict themselves as opposed to what they're actually addicted to. Because what you can get addicted to is basically anything. So you can get addicted to drugs, you can get addicted to alcohol, you can get addicted to gambling, you can get addicted to shopping, you can get addicted to food, you can get addicted to TV, anything. You can get addicted to anything. So the problem is not really the addiction itself, though yes, the addiction itself is causing harm to the addict, and it's slowly, killing brain circuitry and things like that within the addict. But that's not the big problem. The big problem is actually the addict itself. And Dr. Mate really humanizes addicts in his book. And the reason he chooses to humanize them is because the main reason why people become addicted to things is, according to Dr. Maté, is because of trauma. So trauma is at the center of every addictive behavior. So every addictive behavior is as a means of escapism, trying to run away from this trauma. And the addiction promises pleasure, albeit temporary, but it provides the addict with a way out to cope with the trauma, the stress, and all of that got them into the addiction in the first place. Addicts are very complicated. Addicts are very complicated people. They don't have a black and white. It's not very easy to. Addicts are very complicated people. It's not very black and white to see necessarily what is causing the problem in the first place that's leading them towards this addiction. You have things like complex PTSD, which obviously is in the name, it's complex. So it's not always easy to find what the root cause is. And a lot of the time, addicts themselves won't be very open with you in terms of, what they suffered when they were children, what they, or whatever. So essentially, on top of being traumatized as children, or sometimes even as adults, and then picking up addictions off the back of that, societal pressure does not make it any easier for the addict to recover. Because if you look around, everywhere there is negativity and abusive behavior, psychological manipulation, all in the name of curing the addict. However, none of those methods really come to pass, because, like I said, addictions are based off of trauma, and to further traumatize addicts and alienate and demonize only makes the situation worse. The cycle of the addict is such: pain gets the urge, fulfills the urge, guilt. Pain gets the urge, fulfills the urge, guilt. And the addict is stuck in that cycle constantly. And then to have societal pressure on top of that, it just doesn't, it reinforces that cycle over and over, and it doesn't help them get out of it. So now we know what an addiction is, and we know who addicts are, who are affected by the addiction. How do they actually beat the addiction, so to speak? Well, there isn't an easy answer to that, because you never actually beat your addiction. There is always a constant fight that you go through in your head, or the addict goes through in their head, to stop them from giving in, to stop them from, just falling prey to the temptation. However, there are ways to manage it. So Dr. Gabor talks about these programs called 12-step programs in his book. Basically, it's making addicts feel part of a community, making them feel accepted, making them feel, basically trying to fill that void for them that led them into the addiction in the first place, alongside picking up habits, allowing them to pick up habits which can replace that, dopaminergic rush, so they can still be fulfilled in a healthier way. So essentially, guys, that's it. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments. give this video a like. Share will be greatly appreciated. And like I said, go and read the book yourself, download the audiobook, you know, and do some research into addiction yourself, because the subject is really fascinating, and it can really help a lot of people, not just addicts in general, but, you know, a lot of people. So yeah, thank you very much.